Hi everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're gonna look into a very simple technique to make groovy techno bassline, especially if you're into this raw, deep, hypnotic techno, and it sounds like this. So in terms of sound, the waveform doesn't really matter. Square is nice, just the thing is to low pass everything. So here I use 24 dB low pass filter, but you can see it's a pretty simple sound. And I add an extra EQ8. And I have a sidechain rack, I put it in the description, just to get that pumping effect. Now to create this type of bass line, create a MIDI clip, double click, reduce the length just to 1 beat, and you wanna put the grid in 16. And we're gonna play around A0. So we have now a bass like this offbeat, and with the kick. Now the idea of today's video is to use pitch bend to create some nice and groovy bass line. So to use pitch bend, you need to click here, and on the envelope you go to MIDI control and you have pitch bend here. So now you can select some point and you can start to draw some curve. And you can see you already start to have something interesting. So you could tell me this is very similar to glide, and I could use glide. You know, glide is when you superpose two notes and you add some glide or portamento, which is basically this pitch variation in between two notes. This is exactly what we're doing. We are doing a pitch variation. The thing here is you can easily control how high or down in pitch you want to go. And most importantly, you can choose different curves. So if you hold Alt and then click down or up, you can have something more logarithmic or exponential, which lead you to different results. Now, one of the downsides to using pitch bend is you don't really know which note you are pitching up or down. Most of the time it wouldn't be an issue, but if you really want to be a bit more precise, you can always go to note expression here, and you can see per note you have now the curve in semitone. So let's say you want 7 semitone, and you can always again change the curve. The cool thing with that compared to classic glide is you can also kind of draw differently a little bit, like let's say half of the note nothing happening and then the glide happens, so kind of delay the pitch modulation. So now we can create a new MIDI clip and apply what we see, but maybe bring it a little bit further. One thing that can be intimidating with bassline, and especially with pattern, is like you will start just even with like one bar pattern and you will feel very intimidated because you don't really know where to fill up the blanks. So I will recommend always start simple and shorten the length. You can always duplicate it later and then add some variation. So here there is two things that you have to take in consideration when creating a bassline. It's basically where you're gonna put your note on the grid, and as well the length of the note. I'm gonna zoom a little bit here, and here I'm gonna start with a kind of a classic sound like this. So nothing really interesting now, but we can make this one longer and maybe reduce this one. And now we're gonna apply our pitch modulation. So I'm just gonna fold this. So on the first example, we started with the default pitch and we went up. Here we can do the opposite, like starting up and went down to the default pitch. And we can get something like this. So here what's happening, basically pitch bend is kind of a pitch modulation. So it's like if you was modulating your pitch with an envelope, and here we are kind of imitating the characteristic of a tom sound, which means like it's a kind of a classic sine wave, and we apply a short pitch envelope on it. And that's what's gonna create this kind of punch at the beginning, which make your bass sound sounds almost like a tom. And we can do the same to the first one. We can play with different value obviously, but then now we have something like that. Now if you want to make your bassline more complex or longer, you can just duplicate it, and now we can play again with the second part that we just duplicated and maybe have a different pitch bend modulation. Here I'm gonna keep the first one, maybe we can make it stronger, and this one I'm gonna try something different, almost like an up and down thing. Maybe we can switch back to a smaller grid so I can probably create some weird . So then it's really up to you to experiment with all of that. You can play obviously with, again, with the curve, and yeah, you get a pretty good bass line. Now, one thing I haven't shown, which apply to any type of bass line, is obviously you can play with the velocity to add a bit more groove. You can also kind of add a bit of shuffle or swing by switching the note slightly off the grid. You can do this with the groove pool as well, but that's things that you can do as well. One tip that I can give you, and something that can happen sometimes, is like you feel you're almost there, but your bassline kind of feel a bit offline. What I will recommend is to kind of change the starting point, and sometimes that can lead you to interesting results. So for example, this one works well, but if I put the start button here, it works pretty well as well. Now finally, two final tips that can help you get more grooves or make your kicks and bass fit better. First, obviously, it's to apply some sidechain to your bass. And second, the length of your kick might sometimes be too long, and you can just go again to your envelope, clip, and gain, and you can maybe try to shape the length of your kick to kind of fit better your bass line. So it's not okay for that kick, but it can happen sometimes as well. Sometimes might feel like it's missing some gluing a little bit together, and you can add a bit of rumble as well on your kick, very subtle, just to add this little glue between the kick and the bass. That can help. But I hope you like this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you soon. Bye.